Like many other museums across the prairies, Sukanen Museum near Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan relies on hard-working volunteers to keep things running smoothly. They have put together an impressive collection of farm equipment and buildings from days gone by. But Doug Carrick, who is one of the volunteers, told us that one of their proudest accomplishments has been the addition of a grain elevator originally built in 1913.
Our farm site, we set up different things, projects we work on all the time, and so we sort of had an elevator lined up, and in 2006 I was president here, and I got a phone call, an anonymous phone call from a gentleman that was going to donate $30,000 to the elevator fund.
That donation made it possible for them to move the elevator here from Mawer, Saskatchewan, covering a distance of about 100 miles by road. They hired weed movers from Saskatoon, which ended up using nearly 100 tires under the elevator to make the move.
And I think that as far as weaves were concerned, I think this was the last elevator that they were going to move. They said that anything that's left, there's just no shape to move. And they said that this is really a solid elevator to move. It had been well built.
Carrick told us they were unable to move the elevator's original office building, so instead they got to work and built this replica office.
And it's exact size of the original, and we built it on site here, and it houses all the office area plus the engine that drives the equipment for the elevator. And so the outside is the original tin off the other office, and all the tin you see inside is off the original office.
This is the stationary engine referred to by Carrick, a 1913 Fairbanks Morse with 10 horsepower, which is identical to the one which drove the grain handling equipment when the elevator was new. Lawrence Ganshorn of Regina was responsible for the restoration of the engine and also showed us how to run it.
And the drive system, that all came out of the elevator at Mawer. The clutch drive and all that stuff is everything that's been all cleaned, restored, put back in. But it's originally out of the elevator at Mawer. And it runs the drive right through to the elevator that runs the equipment in the elevator, the leg and stuff like that. And this is the original here. It's that's the clutch that runs the shaft going through there, and then you release it like that.
The restoration work inside the elevator is nearly complete, but Carrick said they still have some work to do to get the grain leg up and running.
And that's the leg there that they take the grain up. It's dumped in this here, and then goes down in and goes up the leg into the bins. And that wheel right up here will tell you which, they're all numbered with cable, and it'll swing the spout around different areas to whatever bin you want to put the grain in.
Of course, the grain in those bins would eventually be loaded out of the elevator.
From the bins back into that hopper back there, and it's weighed and loaded into the box cars ready to ship out. And it's all back in the hopper back there, and that's the scale is still there that they weighed. They could fill it up with grain, weigh it, dump it into the elevator, into the grain cars, railway cars, and then they could fill it again. But it was all weighed there.
When this elevator was built back in 1913, grain was being hauled with horses and wagons. By driving the front end of the wagon onto the elevator hoist, it would dump the grain out for you.
There was a air hoist that would lift this up high enough to dump the grain out of the box. And in the office, that engine that was running, they had a compressor running off that engine, pumping up air, and it would have enough air that would operate this hoist to lift it up and down. And it could be operated right from the scales. There was a valve on there.
Carrick says the scale is just like the one which used to be used back when the elevator was first built.
And they could weigh the load here. This moved back and forth, and they would weigh the load, and they kept their bookwork right here, and then they would dump the load, and then after they dumped it, of course, they'd weigh the empty load, and then they'd have the amount of grain that they actually hauled, and they would keep a record of everything here, and then it would be taken back into the office when they were done the day and done all their bookwork in the office.
Carrick and the other museum volunteers had to rebuild the ramp for driving into the elevator, but the building itself was in reasonably good condition when it got here.
This part here is all original. We had to fix the roof and re-shingle the roof. And then we put plywood on the walls behind me here. And that's kind of just going to be to put memorabilia on about the elevator. But other than that, this whole area is pretty well original. We had to find, from another elevator, we got the bars for the grates here because there was no grates left in the elevator when we brought it down here.
Here, Gord Ross, one of the many volunteers involved in restoring this elevator, drives a truck into it just like they did in the old days. The total cost of moving and restoring the elevator was over $100,000. Most of that total came from donations and fundraising done by Sukanen Museum, support which was greatly appreciated.